I'm Jared Whitwer, owner of Performance Diesel.
I'm Sean Barney, General Manager here at Performance Diesel.
Out in the field, I've had a lot of questions brought to me by sales guys, dealers, customers of ours. Why do you guys have the trucks you have, and what do you do with them? Well, I think first of all, the reason we need to talk about this is we do have a lot of different trucks, and we get a lot of different feedback from their nice trucks and why does PDI need to have such nice trucks. So today is the story of breaking down why we have trucks and how we go about changing different things. And Sean and I will be talking back and forth as he has been heavy involved in some of the CARB Air Resource Board fundamentals that go on with that, and also at the test center. So that being said, we get a lot of questions out is how does your tuning work and how are you getting to the areas that you're getting? So let's start with the trucks first. Of course, we try to buy as nice a trucks as we can. We'll start with last year's truck, the Duke. Some of you have seen it on social media. Some of you have seen it at shows. This year it will be running quite a few different shows. So the Duke is equipped with a 605 2050 Cummins. That truck was bought, ran 6,000 miles, and then the engine was pulled out, including the emission system and all of the electronic control modules that go with it, and loaded on a truck and delivered to Southwest Research Center for emissions testing.
Yeah, the Duke, we took it all apart, had to send it down basically in pieces, and then we had to get it down to Texas to an independent research lab, where then we have to basically recreate the truck inside the test cell. We have to set up the engine, pair that with the dyno, and then hook up all the after treatment, and then we go to testing, and we do a bunch of baseline testing to see where the emission levels are from the factory, and then they have to make sure that everything there passes, everything is running correctly, and then we go ahead and install our tuner or intake or an exhaust manifold. We install those things on the engine, and then we rerun that certification test, and we run that against what they call a test letter for California, and they basically stipulate that your products cannot increase emissions to a certain level over what the factory is, or it has to meet the standard for that emission year.
So Sean, let me interrupt you here for a minute and ask you, so what kind of work does it take to even get a test letter? Like, what does, when you're inputting to the Air Resource Board, what does it take? Do you just say, I want to do this? Or is there a certain application? Because I'm in charge of purchasing the truck to get that done. Mm-hmm. But I know there's a reason why we purchased the 605 2050 engine, so the calibration. Can you elaborate on that?
That's a good question. So it's not just a simple process of somebody calling up or sending an email to CARB and saying, I'm a manufacturer of diesel performance products and I have a product that I want to submit information for, or I want to test, and they just say, yeah, that's okay. So it's kind of a long, drawn out process. It's kind of difficult to do. You first contact them and you kind of give them they'll assign you a representative, and you can kind of talk through what you want to do. And at that point, then you have to go to work and find what emission family that you want to test. So a lot of our products, let's just pick a Cummins for instance. Cummins makes several different engines, from an ISB, a 6.7 liter, all the way to a 15 liter ISX that's on highway. And so we have to go through all of the different engine families, and what CARB will do, once I submit that information to them, they'll pick out which engine they want us to test. So we can't just say, hey, we want to test a 450 horse ISX or X15. They then tell me which one I have to test. And generally it is the highest horsepower that's in that model, in that family, which in that case is a 605. And so once they tell me that we have to test that, it takes about 6 to 8 months to get a letter that then approves you to go to a testing facility. And from there, you have to schedule all that out with the testing facility, which can take another 6, 8 months. plus a lot of funds to do it. And that's why we have to test with the trucks we test with.
So when you're talking on a lot of funds, are you talking $10,000? Like, I've heard that guys are getting EOs on pickups from $10,000 to $25,000. They buy a pickup, they put them on a wheel chassis dyno, they run their horsepower, and what I've seen is there's a particular company out there, SEMA, that actually has a system that you can enroll in to get for manufacturers that can get a CARB EO through them. Is that a possibility in the heavy truck industry?
It's not. So we were a member, and we're still a member of SEMA, and we've been to several CARB board meetings and talked with them, and that was a concern. A couple of years ago, people were complaining in the light duty market. It was expensive. It was $5,000 to $10,000 to $15,000 to test a vehicle, and all they really have to do is they put it on a chassis dyno. They bring the whole vehicle in, put it on a chassis dyno, and run those tests. And it's significantly less than what it costs to do a heavy duty, for the simple fact that we have to take the whole truck apart and put it in an engine test cell. We can't just put it on a chassis dyno and test it that way. So we have the man hours you have to purchase the truck, tear it all apart, ship it, reassemble it, make sure to hook everything up, and it costs anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 per hour to do that. And so when you bill a week's time in an engine dyno facility, it adds up very fast to $350,000 to over $500,000 in one project. And so when you compare our products, yes, sometimes it may be more expensive, but this is what you're getting. You're getting the back end support from PDI that's taken it apart, that's tested it emissions, so it's 100% legal to run on your vehicle, so it's compliant. So, for example, we were out at Louisville just not too long ago at the truck show, and that's, people don't understand what a CARB EO is. Basically, it's a written document that says this is okay to run in California, and by doing that, it is okay to run in the other 49 states as well. And you'll be able, once they see a decal that's put in your engine bay that we ship with our products, when CARB sees that, then they know that they don't have to run that product through to check it.
So that being said, how many times do you think we've learned something being at the engine test stand? I mean, engine test stand, being on the chassis dyno that we have here, the reason why we keep the trucks around is we've had customers call in and complain that, hey, my 605 is not doing what you say it's doing, and that's why we keep the trucks down there. We try to manipulate the problem and make the truck do what the customer's saying it is. I mean, we've had, and that's another reason with our hard parts, our exhaust manifolds, intakes, and the different things we make, is them trucks are also for fitment. I mean, there's the new 21 and 22 Kenworth and Peterbilt has a new oil tube on it. You can't even get oil in it. For like right now, we're trying to build one of those new, and that's another reason why we have the trucks is for fitment. And I think behind the scenes, everybody sees all the cool trucks, the Peterbilts and the different things we have. But if people were come by to visit our facility, they would see that there's a Volvo in the parking lot. There's a 22 Detroit in the parking lot. There's a new PACCAR engine in the parking lot. And them are all under testing, and all them have to go under the same significant testing as Cummins does. And one thing I want to bring up, and I challenge any of the tuners that are out there in the market right now to be compliant, that they're, when they're going after this. But, when Sean and I first started this, or I started PDI, we're a little over 20 years old now, and in June we'll be 21 years old. But when calibrations come out, I remember working at another facility when I was younger, and I seen one of the very first E-models that Caterpillar come out. We go from 1993 and a half to, current engines are called 2022 model engines with a 23 truck. The difference in flash file capacity, in file size, and actually the most important part that people don't get, which a lot of people do, is they just upfit the wrong file for the truck. and especially in today's engines, that just because you have a 565 2050 engine doesn't mean it's going to run like the 605 2050, because they've upfitted different pistons, compression, fuel mapping. And that's one thing I wanted to get into with Sean and ask him, because he helps us tremendously with our tuning here. And he's pretty more over that, because I'm over all of the hard parts. But Sean, since you come to work here in 2008, we were tuning Caterpillars mainly back then, a few Cummins. But what were you seeing difference in when you opened up your dialogue of how many flash files there was for one particular engine? What are you seeing nowadays on X15?
Yeah, it's changed a ton, because years ago, Caterpillar, you had either a 475 or a 550 or a C16, a 600, and there was a couple handfuls of different calibrations that you'd see, and very small differences in that. But now with the X15, there's hundreds and hundreds of calibrations, and depending on what that vehicle is, what the chassis is, what it's set up for, whether it's in a dump truck, a fire truck, or just a normal over-the-road truck, it just really depends on that. And it's, we have several different trucks at our facility, and that's partially why, because one size doesn't fit all. When it did with Caterpillar years ago, and still today, it did, but it doesn't now. And so we have to be very particular on how we're doing tuning. And that's another thing, back to your CARB EO question, it's no longer, people changing the calibration. You have to tune that calibration that's in it. So you have to be very particular with them too, to keep everybody compliant on the road.
So correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is EPA and CARB, when you get the CARB exemption, and it's a 605 2050, that means it needs to have the original flash file that was put in that truck from the factory. You can't say, well, there's a new 660 file that came out and you can't upload the 660 file. And is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So if you have a 450 horsepower ISX, it gets that same calibration that's in it from the factory. Which
is a 450, right?
That's a 450.
And so what everybody needs to understand out there in the tuning is just when you buy a tuner from PDI, and you put it on your 450 horse engine, you're going to gain between 10 and 15%, and same with the 605, you're going to gain between 10 and 15%. So that doesn't mean you're actually going to have the 450 run with the 605 horsepower engine, which a lot of people get mixed up, because back in the day, a lot of guys, Caterpillar guys, put 600 files in a 475. And it worked. But anymore in today's thing, we end up having DPF breaching, what we're seeing, a lot of different emission issues that are caused, premature engine failure, and a lot of turbocharger issues because of that. So that's why PDI has the trucks they have, and why we went to the extensive testing we have. And to be honest with you, we do the same on hard parts. I'd like to bring a particular truck up. We own a 2019 Kenworth T660 and a 2022 Peterbilt 389. Both of them have PACCAR engines. In them 2 years, the exhaust manifold is the same on the low horsepower and the high horsepower of the 2022 and the low horsepower of the 2019, which means a 435 1550 torque and a 500 1850 torque. But the amazing part about that is in that window of time of 3 years, there's another manifold that developed on high horsepower between 2019, or I think it's 2018 actually, and 2022 that has a part number, and I'm not kidding, it's millimeters of difference of the way the manifold sets so the turbo can sit in the right thing. So that goes to show you have to build two different sets of toolings and get that manifold set up for both engines. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, and then that all has to go through the testing, air resource board, using a 3D printer to make it, and modeling everything and making the changes, but also keeping in that volume of being able to be a replacement part but have some performance in the same means. Sean, when you come to work for me in 2008, what was my key sentence I said to you that what we do for our customers?
I think the key, I mean, as far as the key sentence, this quality's number one, and the quantity will come after that. Absolutely, with our customers.
And how many times have you seen the way we react as far as in the service center or how the company was built, that we jump above and beyond to take the customer, first their satisfaction, but also if they're calling in for tech support and have an issue, what do we do to handle the customer if they have a tech support question?
Well, if customer calls in, let's say it's on a tuner or something like that. Somebody calls in, we discussed it earlier. We want to make sure if a guy calls in and it's a legitimate issue, we want to be able to go out and recreate the issue, figure out what is going on, how do we fix it, and how do we deliver that to our customer. But that's how we do that. We get it here, we take it serious. If it's something that's occurred multiple times, then we'll go out to the truck. If it's tuning, I'll get involved. We'll see, hey, let's recreate this problem. Let's see how we can make it better. And it's not something that gets put on the back burner. It's not something that says, oh, okay, we'll do that when we get time. It's always, hey, let's take care of this issue. Let's finish this and complete it for the customer. And so for quality-wise, we want to make sure everything's correct for you as the customer. We've had really good customers for 20 plus years, and they keep coming back and buying our product. And there's a reason why. It's quality. We put out quality product, and in any manufacturing setting, you're going to have some type of issue come along the way. But we take them very serious, and we make sure that quality is at the forefront. So the next time that customer or you as a customer wants to buy something, they can call up, talk to one of our sales team, and they know that what we put on the paper that says, hey, you're going to gain fuel mileage, we're going to gain power, they can order it without having the question of, well, last time I didn't have that, or I didn't experience that last time. I want you to buy product, or we want you to buy product that is 100%. And if I do have an issue, I can call in, talk to anybody here. We always pick up the phone, so that it's not just an automated thing that everybody's frustrated about sometimes. Somebody's going to get on the phone with you, talk it through, and make sure that you're taken care of.
Sean, when I hired you back in 2008, and we were having our agreements and you were coming to work for us, what was the number one thing that I said I wanted to work on and make sure that we continued to do as a company?
Well, number one was customer service and also quality product. And everything else would fall into place after that. And that's been true from day one. PDI has always taken serious customer service and making sure that what we say on paper or on our website, making sure that what we say is what we do. And so if we put out a product that says we're going to gain mileage, we're going to gain horsepower, that's what we deliver to you as the customer. We've been doing that for 20 years. And on the customer service side, as with any manufacturing company, we're going to have a few issues, a little bumps along the way. But when a customer calls and says, hey, I'm experiencing this problem, has anybody else experienced it? We can then go to work and say, hey, yeah, maybe we do have an issue here. How do we fix it? And going back to, the question about the trucks, why PDI has these new trucks or has even some old trucks to make sure that the product's right. We go out and we test those things. Try to recreate the issue, recreate the scenario that you're having. We've done it probably hundreds of times with a customer's complaint. We've hopped in the truck and went hundreds of miles to make sure that the problem was recreated and the problem was fixed. And then we can take that back to our production team and implement those changes and make sure that when you guys call up to order another product that you feel comfortable with, that we're able to deliver on that one as well.
And I think that goes along with, I set a motto back when I started the company that I'd been on an airplane numerous times to help the customer, even if it wasn't our issue. I remember one time flying to Long Beach to change a set of injector cups on the side of the road. I think one thing I like to just touch a few minutes on before we close is my background is engines, and I built pretty much every engine there was. I built lots and lots of Caterpillar, Series 60, Cummins, I mean N14s. My background is an engine type guy, so we understand the ins and out, what makes the engine work. And you know, a lot of times people get mixed up in the market, what we're doing, what people are doing, competitors or other people trying to come up with other parts. And that's the one greatest thing with having, of course, a chassis dyno and also being able to get on the engine dyno is actually to see what everything works well together as a package. Of course, the package that we have, the 1, 2, and 3 packages are going to run the best. And each fuel map and the way we time it and make them, they are meant to work together. They're meant as a package. So when we sell the package, it is the best for power and best for fuel efficiency. And we all know in today's age at where we're at with fuel efficiency, how much a half a mile a gallon is when you're doing 15 to 18,000 miles a month on a truck. It's a huge savings. And in the last 5 to 6 years, we've really went to our packages where almost anyone that has a set of tools can just bolt it on. It's easy, has install packages in the thing or on the website on how to do it. We are continuing to do videos to make product easier to install and different things. And our product carries a great warranty on all of the exhaust manifolds. They have a 3-year warranty as long as you register the part on the website. If not, it carries a standard 1-year manufacturer warranty. But if the part is registered on our website, it'll be a 3-year warranty. And I really want to touch on that because we have a lot of guys that don't use the 3-year warranty. I went over a warranty today that a guy did not register his manifold and it cost him some time. So, and that being said, I would really like to thank all our loyal customers for the last 20 years, almost 21 years, and bringing trucks here. We have trucks coming from all over the nation for us to work on them, put our product on them, build engines for them, and we're very appreciative in this time, especially for the truck driver, is what he's doing for America, especially during the pandemic, was keeping America moving. Where everybody else was sitting at home, the truck driver still had to continue to move the product to get people to families so they could eat or enjoy what else they were doing. And I'll turn a few more minutes over to Sean.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, but just to echo that, thank you for all the customers for the last long time. We're continually moving forward, continually changing, evolving, I should say, to make our products better, and to help you guys even more with power, with fuel mileage. We love to see you guys all at the shows this year. We just went to Louisville, like we mentioned, and there's tons more this year. See us out on the show truck, on the show circuit. Check out our products. Jared mentioned the stage 1, 2, and 3 packages, mentioning Cummins right there. So check those out when you're there.
Sean, I just want to go over a couple things on the tuner. We've had some customers that's unplugged the tuner during a flash or shut the key off, and I'd like to go over the tuner, just one little bit of tech support on it, why we have a Wi-Fi chip and why we've developed the product that we've developed on different reasons. Like, can you give us an example of something that was maybe broke down on the side of the road, how tech support team and your engineering team was able to get that up and moving?
Yeah, good question. So brings up the tuner, why we have Wi-Fi capabilities built into the tuner. There's several reasons for that, and to kind of circle back on customer service. So no matter which product you have, eventually somebody's going to do something they probably shouldn't with the install instructions, things like that. But in order to make that simple for not only the customer to get them up and running, say they're in the middle of a flash or something and unplug it and it blanks out, say an ECM. On the back end of that, then we have the support with if we need to send a different flash file or calibration to that engine, something got messed up in translation or something like that. But in order to recover those parameters so that everything is still looking factory on that ECM and for the driver, we're able to see pretty much everything on the back end, and it saves your information so that when there is an issue, we can make that less painful for you as a customer, so that we can get in touch with tech support, and then within reasonable time, within half hour, an hour, making sure that you're back up and running and making sure everything's correct. But we've put a lot of time and thought into that, just how to make sure that if, let's say, we are fixing or making something a little bit more horsepower than it made before, or we're adjusting it so it gets better mileage, then those updates to those calibrations to your truck, when you have the tuner on it, that those updates are then pushed to your device. That way you can update yours to make it better, to keep everything running.
So that being said, can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because what I'm taking is, and seeing in the shop and different areas and on some of the trucks I've drove, that Cummins does updates on their flash files, right?
Yeah, all the manufacturers do.
And what would be the reason why Cummins would update a certain flash file? Is there emission issues they're fixing? Is there certain, maybe they've got high consumption of DEF or certain that? Can you elaborate on why we update with them?
We update with them for a couple different reasons. There's, you brought up DEF consumption. When the X15 first came out, they had excessive DEF consumption. That was one of the issues that the X15 had. You'd see a lot of white residue on the stacks. They weren't as good on fuel. They had some fault code issues with like your crankcase pressure sensors, different things like that. But over those years, Cummins, from 2018 to now, Cummins has updated those calibrations about 25 to 30 times. And so with each one of those, when they go into Cummins and they update, say Cummins updates that engine controller with the newest software, we then have to make sure that we're compliant, tuning the correct one, but also making sure that those changes, rather than somebody going in and just putting old files in or something like that, we want to make sure that your engine is running the best it can, so we update with whatever your controller is, so that those changes are with it.
So how would a customer upload the new files? Is it...
So if, let's say you go into a manufacturer, even Detroit, let's say even a Detroit, and they flash over your tune, you can then take the tuner, plug it back in. It'll recognize that controller's been updated to some other calibration. And at that point, it will tell you, hey, you need to call tech support, or if we've already seen that issue before, if we've already recognized that this is the newest update for that, then connect it to Wi-Fi and it'll download that calibration and you can flash it.
I would just like to thank everybody that's been a customer for the last 21 years coming forth. PDI is moving forward and has continued to make parts for however long we can see in the near future. Not going to let electrical vehicles run us out of the park, but we're going to continue to keep compliant, dealing with CARB Air Resource Board and the federal government on the things that they ask us to do to keep our tuning compliant. I'm appreciative for all those that are asking all the questions, and also send in social media stuff asking questions that we can better to do on our product. Once again, I'd like to thank all the many truck drivers for the many things they do for the